Oh boy, it's been a while since we've done one of these. So, hey there guys, Noah here, alongside,
Mira Cardnecko.
and welcome to the Legion Mate podcast. I don't even remember the last time we did one of these, so I'm kind of just starting from scratch essentially with this. So, yeah, it's been a year for Vanguard, to say the very least, and I figured for this episode we go over what we liked about this year for Vanguard, some of the things we liked, some of the things we wish they would have done more of, and some of the things we hope for the future for next year, I guess.
Well, first answer the question. Did you consider it a good year or a bad year for Vanguard?
I would say, considering it was heading into a new era and it had a lot to kind of fill in the gaps with, considering how people were mixed with Overdress, with the Overdress and Will Dress era, I think Divines had a lot of shoes to fill, and I think overall Vanguard had a good year this year. There are some things, as someone who primarily plays premium, I wish they would have done more of, which I'll get to later. But overall, just to answer this specific part of the question, absolutely. I think they did a really solid job of introducing Divines, not just as in terms of the card pool, but also the anime as well, which this is because I know you came into the anime via V, so you have no context for some of the stuff before that.
Yeah.
But as someone who sat through the original back in 2013 and kind of fell into love with the franchise ever since, I can definitely say that Divines is probably the best we've had since late G, as in terms of of the actual anime, outside of maybe Shinamon, because I think that was good.
Okay, so you're saying that it's been a good year in terms of the anime and in terms of product.
Yeah.
Aren't you disappointed that what's his name? Vanguard Zero is dead though?
I mean, that was last year.
Was that last year?
Yeah, that was last year. That was way long ago.
I thought that was this year for some reason.
You know what it is? It's because so many people, they make so many posts with Vanguard Zero still. There was this one guy that I follow that had bulk recordings of Vanguard Zero matches for the past year, right before Zero ended. So I think that's part of the reason why, for me personally, why I sometimes think that. But no, Vanguard Zero ended last year, and I still kind of miss it, kind of don't, because there were a lot of problems with it. But as in terms of just overall, Vanguard this year was pretty good.
Okay, so the product, I think it's been fine so far. There are things that I feel like they could be fixing, but I think for the most part, I don't think they've made things as hard to get as they've done in the past couple of years with the reboot for Standard.
Yeah.
I feel like they're trying and making an attempt to make things easier to get. In terms of the anime, I would say I'm probably the most disappointed by the anime.
Okay.
Not that it's bad per se, but it's just, I feel like the anime came to a point where it was kind of a little been there, done that with Vanguard already.
Okay, so...
And this is from someone, again, I know I only started in 2013, but...
Not 2013.
No, not 2013. 2018.
Yeah.
Started with V, but I'm already starting to see all of those tropes that Vanguard does, and I want them to branch out and take a chance with it. I know they're selling products, so that's not really going to happen, but there was a lot of things where I was just that trope's coming up, that trope is coming up, we've been there, done that, we've been there, done that.
Okay.
And I would like to see Vanguard the anime take itself more emotionally seriously, because I just feel that they're just playing to all their tropes and they're not doing much with them.
I could kind of understand, especially for season 2, but I think at least for season 1, I think if honestly, if it was just those 13 episodes and we didn't really get much else, I think honestly it would have been really good. That's the sad part. I think season 2 kind of ruins a little bit of the things I liked about season 1, in the sense where I felt like season 2, at least starting out, I felt like a lot of the fights were just rushed, personally. I felt like it was fight after fight after fight, and random character X, Y, and Z here with barely any bit of emotional weight or value. And that was my biggest problem with season 2.
Also, I thought that there was going to be a point that we were going to enter was it just Cray?
Yeah.
The planet Cray, because like literally they set it up as 6 kids go to camp one summer.
Yeah.
Just like in Digimon. And I was just like, through those episodes, I was so ready to just be like, well, I guess we're going to Cray. Guess we're going to the digital world.
Yeah, that didn't
and
happen.
it didn't happen. It would have been hilarious, but at the same time, I think it would have been so bad it was hilarious if they had actually went that route.
I mean,
the route they went was just kind of their meh route.
Yeah.
Like we've done something similar already. Like yeah. At least I felt like with Overdress, at least they tried to make like new and interesting characters and tried to give us like something different.
Even if they eventually ruined them later on down the line.
Or didn't do much with them afterwards. Yeah, but at least I felt like they were trying. And there's always just this element for Vanguard that I liked better when when the card game is just a card game. And it's there just to help people get through the personal struggles that they're going through. And not to actually be a real place that they can that people could travel to if they could.
Yeah.
Like it does sound awesome in theory, but like just I don't know, that's what drawn me to V. The V anime. I kind of liked that it was just
Psyqualia, even though it was weird.
No, not Psyqualia. But just the fact that it was, Aichi was a lonely, sad kid, but grew up in a way because Vanguard was there to help him make friends and help him push through.
Give him the social life he never really had.
Well, yeah. And I feel like that's true for a lot of people that are into the franchise. And not just Vanguard, but like Pokemon, Digimon, like...
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, like... So I liked that realism to it. I know it went into its own bonkers direction after a certain point. But like, that was the kind of show I really liked.
Yeah.
And like, I would really love them to do like an actual serious slice of life.
Yeah.
Type show without like the mystical powers.
The world ending stakes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is the one thing that I think, because again, it may just be my personal bias and me having already experienced the older stuff. So I get where you're coming from with a lot of that, but that's just card game anime in general. Like, they're trying to sell the product. I think initially the first season was good, just simply because like you really didn't need to do too much, but it was enough to drive the point home, especially when it came to spoiler alert, which I'm gonna go ahead and say spoiler alert in case for some odd reason you care. Future Hikari. I think in season 1 in particular, they did a really good job with her character because you felt the absolute despair of her losing Akina in that timeline.
I thought his name was not Akina.
Yeah, his name is Akina.
Akina? Isn't it like...
it's Akina.
Akina.
Yeah.
It's Akina, not Akina. That's 2 different names.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, but either way...
But either way, yes, I did like the gritty realism of that, her living her life without her brother. Also, it's just kind of a cop-out to be like, in the second season, just for it to be like, oh, well, she had some random creature in her, and that's why she was always so sick and...
Yeah, and that's...
all that. Like, that's where I was kind of like, dude, like... Can't we just have anything non-related to
Cray bullshit? Like,
yeah. Listen, if they want to make, like, I think they should probably do an anime where it's actually settled in Cray. Like, if they had done the Rowan stuff,
like the Cray Cross Epic stuff, yes.
Yeah, like as an anime, I think I would have been all over that.
I
know it wouldn't be promoting the card game per se, but I probably would have been like more invested in watching that
than ever like sitting. And I think that's one angle I wish they would eventually do, but they never do it, and I'm mad about that as someone who's been a fan of this series for years, because Yu-Gi-Oh kind of does something similar in a sense where they have a lot of the cards like actually have actual lore to it, but they never really do much with anything with the lore. They don't show in like even like a brief like 20 like minute animation like special whatever. They just kind of just exist in this like spirit world and they don't do anything with it. And Vanguard has a similar problem with it. And I think you're kind of right in the sense where I kind of want to see more at this point. I know it's not going to happen, but it's wishful thinking.
Yeah, again, like I either want them to go more slice of life, like actually focus on the characters and the real struggles that they could be facing
Yeah.
in life, or if they're gonna go with the mystical and magical, like just put us on Cray, let us see those let us see those people fighting and living their lives and stuff on Cray.
Or at the very least, make it feel more like how, because the thing about the original NG is that there were times where it was slice of lifey, but there were also times where the units themselves would like legitimately like manifest, and it worked in a way where it gave you a little bit more of that realism that, unfortunately, ever since, I want to say, kind of since V, kind of not, like, because V had it briefly, but like, yeah, like, I kind of miss that sense of realism that kind of happens with the fights themselves. Like, if you're not going to do anything with Cray, at least put the units, like, kind of right in smack dab in front of you. And it would at least help a bit with the immersion. But, I don't know. It's kind of a mess. Like, again, like I said before, I liked Season 1 because, again, I like the way how they handled a lot of the characters. Even some of them, which you kind of need context for, which is my other massive problem with Season 2, is because they threw some of the Will-Dress characters into the mix with I forget the Olden guy's name. Jinky.
Jinky? Isn't that what
I think it Jinky Moonkai, I think his name is.
Isn't it Genki?
No, I think it's Jinky, I think.
But the way you're saying Jinky is like what Velma says when she drops her glasses.
I know.
Jinky's my glasses!
I don't remember his name, but my point is, I didn't like the way how they kind of just sat there and threw these characters in, and they expected you to know them because of the previous series. Like, if they had their own dedicated, like, episode outside of that to show them off a little bit more, kind of like how they did with Masanori in Season 1, where he's kind of mischievous in his own way, and they make it clear of that.
So you wanted the Vanguard anime to waste an episode on exposition.
You see, and that's my problem. Like, if you're going to throw these characters in, you kind of are forced to do that.
Exposition.
Rush
it out ASAP. I'm sorry, that's,
I mean...
I just... I don't know.
I mean, you're not wrong, though. Like, no matter what, it was a slippery slope, and I think that's my biggest critique with, with the show. Like... I know, sadly, they're going to do another deluxe, and it's probably going to make it 10 times worse, because we saw how that played out with Will-Dress, but...
I thought it was super obvious who was going to win, and they need to stop doing that.
They need to stop doing that.
But I would like to see another tournament format.
Because, you know what? That's another thing I will at least give Divines a little bit of credit for. Just when you think the main character is going to, like, win, it's like, no. Because even in Season 2, they had, fuck, I hate the fact I don't remember a lot of these characters. The fucking Dark States guy from Divines.
So, or something?
Suo, I think his name is.
Suo.
You see, I liked the fact that they kind of, like, set him up to be, like, this, like, the big bad initially. And then in Season 2, it's just like, slap down, no, you're absolutely trash. He wasn't trash, but like they made it like show like, oh shit, like no one's safe. And then Akina went to face off against Hikari, and then it was like, nope, you still lose. And it's like, what the fuck? How does that happen? So
I predicted that. Not that you have recording, but I hella predicted it. As soon as the score went to like 3-1, I was like, this is how it's gonna go. That's gonna happen. And then I didn't predict future Hikari to come out, but I did predict how like the fights were gonna go based on it. I knew there was gonna be a tie. I knew there was gonna be a tiebreaker. Like, that's just, it was predictable.
It was too predictable, but I think so. You're just mixed on it, right?
Meh.
You're just met with it. Okay, I'm more mixed. Just because of the overall direction that they had. Again, I liked Season 1, but Season 2 had a lot to be desired. But I guess before we transition to like the actual like product part of it, I do think that if you're trying to get into the Vanguard anime and never gave it a fair shot, I guess sure, Divines is not a bad start. You know, if you've got really nowhere else to go and you don't feel like going as far back as like the original series or G, then by all means, Divines is not a bad start.
I mean, I would even argue Overdress would probably be fine, or V. Just don't watch it.
Don't watch If.
Just don't watch If.
Fuck If.
Because If is just
a train wreck.
Well,
one of these days we'll talk about that again, because I did it, like I did a tier list like thing of like all the Vanguard seasons and whatnot. So
are you gonna leave a link for people to go find that at?
I guess, but it's outdated, so I would have to make a new one. But let's go over quickly the product releases for the foreseeable future as we have it up at the time of this recording, which is like the beginning of December. Mm-hmm. So December 13th, which is literally that Friday of BCS Philadelphia, is Divine Set 5, which unfortunately for those people who are playing in Philly like me, Divine Set 5 will not be legal. So
unfortunately, I think that's very fortunate for you, because you don't have to deal with like the Varga, the extra bullshit that could have come with Varga from this set.
That's I guess just for those people who wanted to play it. And then January we have the Stride deck sets for Night Rose and Hari, and which I don't know if I'm gonna pick up. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Oh, you're deciding against it now.
I'm debating if I want to do it, because I don't know if the funds will be right for it.
And well, I mean, we also did get news that the grade 1 marker givers are going to be reprinted in another set, so I would assume that'll mean Harry and Night Roses at some point as well.
Maybe in the far off future. So that kind of leads into I'm sorry.
So that means hopefully the premium sets, the Stride deck sets, aren't going to be as expensive in the future.
Hopefully, knock on wood. So, and that comes out with Set 6, which will come out in late February, and then they announced it like maybe a couple days ago, but Set 7 will be in April, late April. So,
with I know your character art is technically based on Ren, but this guy on the art gives serious old Noah.SHADOW vibes. Like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, they took you, they just made the hair darker.
It's like, and hey, copy my homework. Sure, just don't make it too obvious.
Basically. But you skipped the big set that's coming out in at the
I know, I did. I said that. Like, Set 6
no, but you didn't even really go into that. That's where Aurora is going to get a new ride line. That's where more Stride stuff is going to be added to Chronojet.
And Messiah, which we're still, at the time of this recording, I don't know what the new Messiah stuff does yet, so I'm hoping it's good, but...
Yeah, Rowan looks like he's going to play different, but I still look forward to it. I'll still probably get the pieces.
But the other thing that, admittedly, I'm kind of not looking forward to, but at the same time, I'm debating still, like, I'm on the fence about this, and I kind of want to hear your take as someone who didn't get a chance to play Dear Days 1. What's our take with Dear Days 2? Because I'm mixed on it.
I mean, I think they're just... is there any, like, function improvements in the game? Like, were there bugs in the original that needed to be fixed? Or
the only
like
problem with Dear Days 1 is that the card pool was way too outdated. But at least with Dear Days 2, the only... like argument I could like at least give it a little bit more credit is that you have everything up till like Divine Set 3 plus the lyrical booster that came after that. So that means like there's a lot more.
That still doesn't answer the question. Like, was there anything wrong with Dear Days 1 aside from the card pool? Like, actually physically wrong with the game, like bugs and stuff like that.
Slight translation errors, but outside of that, no. It was just overpriced for what they were trying to offer you.
And they're trying to overprice charge people again, and then they're going to make them download DLC. Okay. So I think it's just kind of like a money hungry type move. Because honestly, they could have just updated, given like a good free update for everybody then.
Yeah, they could have, but you know, Bushiroad, they're gonna... I don't even think it's really Bushiroad's fault. I think it's the company that makes these games for you. Because they've had pretty much a lot more control with the games released throughout the years. And so I think Bushiroad, it's kind of manhandled to go alongside with whatever Fuyu wants to do with their shit. So I don't appreciate the fact that we're having to buy a second game, but the only silver lining with it is if you downloaded Dear Days 1 at any point, if you download Dear Days 2 and you still have all your save data for that, you can transfer all the cards you collected from Dear Days 1 over.
Oh, whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, whoop-de-doo after you spent so much money on it. Like, that's just a small constellation prize, and that's literally it.
What they need it to do is just free updates with the new cards.
Every now and then, like, to at least get us going and keep us somewhat updated.
Just like Pokemon TCG Live does. Like, as soon as the new cards come out, they just update the system, and then you just gotta get the...
Well, that's...
I know it's a phone app and it's a computer app, but still, like, how can they do something like that for free so simply, but a game that charges you like $70 plus like an extra $5 to $10 for DLC for more cards?
More than that, the DLCs were like combined was at least another $100 depending on where you lived. Like,
that's my flashlight.
Well, right before they maul me, like that's my main problem with Dear Days 2. Like, the fact they're making you pay another $70 and then possibly making you pay extra more for the DLC. I don't know how the DLC is going to play out. I didn't bother looking into it because I was so dissatisfied with the idea and the notion of it. So, I don't know. Like, I think it's just a train wreck.
Stick to playing the cards in real life until they actually make, like, a good port that...
An actual simulator that isn't CFA.
Well, no, CFA does fine. But I'm saying, like... If just don't bother buying like a game for the Switch or the computer that you're just going to have to keep buying the new one every 2 years just to keep yourself updated with the cards.
Babe.
Only for a month or two later to be outdated with the cards anyway. And then no one is playing at all. And then you sit here and you ask yourself, why did I spend $70 on this thing that nobody is on right now for me to playtest my stuff on?
Okay, but you know the sad part is, the thing you just described there is modern day gaming in a nutshell. This isn't new. So people are already aware that that's just predatory practice at that point.
Yeah, but like...
Like, you know what I mean. Like, it's scummy, but like people deal with it because that's just how it is
but
now.
But not to that degree. And not every game does that. Yeah. And not every company does that too. I feel like it's the really like low-end companies like... Nintendo doesn't really do that.
No, because they're more of a family-oriented thing. Like,
yeah, but like also, I don't think any of like the Square Enix games really do that, or anything like that. Like, if it's actually extra to the game, like extra story and extra like things, then that need a DLC for it to put into the game, then yeah. But just I don't know. Just I feel like it's different to add just a pool of cards in as opposed to a new area you could go and explore. And
yeah, like it shouldn't be too difficult.
Yeah, it's not something that requires people to pay like shit tons of money.
Yeah, this
isn't just be spending on the cards in real life for instead
I was gonna say this isn't something like WoW or League of Legends where you have to actively put in so much time, money, and resources into it. Like, this is just a quick little like simulator at best. You know, that's just going to be outdated, which at that point, like, the only thing I can at least, again, I'll say this again, because the problem with Dear Days 1, just for full context, because I know you never played it, was that it only offered the first 5 sets of the Overdress standard format.
And then made you pay the DLC for the rest.
Yeah, and that was really my main problem. But at least with this, it gives you all the old card pool from the Overdress era, plus the newer stuff.
Yeah, but you realize that by the time it comes out, it'll be on the current set. And then a month later, when the new set comes out, it'll be already behind.
I mean, yes, but I think that it's fine for those people who want to pay that kind of, like... Because keep in mind, too, I think they're also doing it because they also realize they can't get to every major, like, country in the world and have, like... Vanguard be in like card shops everywhere. So this is kind of their backwards logic way of saying, hey, you guys can play Vanguard too, even if there isn't a locals near you. Which
It is backwards logic.
It is backwards logic, especially when there are at least a few simulators out there right now that can, give you Vanguard experience. But again, I'm it's whatever. Like I'm just, it bothers me. I don't know if I'm gonna pick it up entirely still. I know I was really much when the announcement first came, I was like on the bandwagon where I was like, no, fuck this game, I'm not picking it up. But the more I sit there and I look at it, I'm like, like if they do something interesting with it, I'll pick it up. If not, I won't bother.
Why don't you just wait till it becomes cheap?
Yeah, I'll wait until it gets cheap. I'll wait to see if it's more or less the same thing as before I decide on anything.
Yeah, you could have spent your $60 or $70 on product that you could have actually held in your hand, as opposed to a simulator that wasn't even going to give you the whole card pool anyway.
Yeah, so I guess that's a somewhat decent segue into like the product. So, as in terms of like, because it initially started off with like the tail end of Will Dress with like cassette 13 came out like in December of last year, so we essentially all we had was like the Stride deck sets for Luard and Shiranui, as well as I guess what was it, the triple drive booster, I think it was, and then you had all the Divine stuff, which as in terms of what Divines was doing differently, I was at least more interested and engaged with it, and I was wanting to like experiment with energy as a mechanic, which I guess if there's one major thing about Divines in comparison to every other like thing before it, is that energy is, as far as we know at the time of this recording, just a standard exclusive mechanic.
It should stay that way.
You really don't think it can ever be integrated into premium in any sort of way? I don't
think it should, because I think it would break premium.
Really?
More than premium is already broken. Well, think about all the other skills that people could get off for free. All those counter blast or energy blast skills that could be paid off. Do you realize how many things that are already broken will be even more broken if you allow energy be thrown in the mix?
I could kind of see that. I've been thinking about that for a while, but also
just let it stay in standard. There's no need for it to come into premium. There really isn't.
But as in terms of actual like alternative resource, how do you feel about it?
And standard, it's fine. Like, I do think it helps some decks that rely on Counterblast and Soul Blast a lot. Another way to get pieces that are needed. I know it's not a mechanic that everybody's quite used to yet, because I know some people, including myself, I still forget to energy charge at times.
Yeah.
But I think it's fine as a mechanic in standard. Okay. I don't have any complaints about it being in standard. I just don't think it should be allowed in premium.
So yeah, I can kind of see that, at least to test the waters to see how it is. And I think that's part of the reason why they haven't done it yet, is because they're afraid of breaking energy as an actual thing, and then it translated to premium and making it like this cancerous like tier 0 meta threat again.
Speaking of tier 0 metas, I don't think they're quick enough on ban lists.
I do not think that either, which I'm going to be truthful. Like, I'm kind of frustrated by that, because by this point we should have already had the Soja Doji and Shiranui hits already, and yet it's not here. And mind you, Shiranui already got hit like not that long ago either. They couldn't run Drag Veda as their over trigger, and they have to stick with the basic ride line. They couldn't run their Soja Doji grade 2, which is what a lot of lists were running back then. And so, even despite that, Shiranui is still a strong deck. It's still really fucking annoying to deal with. Who would have thought creating a deck that has 7 attacks in one stride turn is just not healthy? Who would have thought?
Who would have thought that having Varga be able to proc off as soon as you hit 4 damage and getting 7 to 8 attacks off was unhealthy either?
Like, I don't think he could get that many attacks, but I get that feel.
Yeah, that's how I feel too, for swinging at you for like 30k slap to the face, basically.
33k slap to the face. Right. Clear your front row. Eventually it'll clear your back row. Yeah, no.
Yeah, so it's just like, I mean, I understand that when product comes out, you got to give people time to play it, but like a month after, come on guys, you need to start jumping on that sooner. Don't wait till like 3 months later where people may not even be really playing those decks anymore.
Yeah.
When you see a problem, acknowledge that there's a problem and think about how to solve it. Take that time, take a month to figure out how to solve it, and then don't wait like 3 months before it becomes an even bigger problem. You're like, oh, well, like, wow, none of other decks are being played right now.
Maybe we should do something about it. And we can wait another month at least. That's Bushiroad's whole problem right now. It's like, as much as I want to like experiment with a lot of the decks that they keep releasing, like I find a lot of these decks interesting, but when you don't do anything with your ban list, it kind of disincentivizes me from actually trying a lot of the newer stuff, which I admit, like, there were a couple decks I was interested in, but ultimately I opted against it because it's like, if you're not going to hit the decks that are extremely problematic, what point is there to me actually investing my money and resources into picking up a lot of these newer decks if you're not going to at least keep a somewhat consistent ban list going?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, that's my main reason why I never, like truthfully, I just picked up my my Biscottis from a friend, and I'm just borrowing them for the time being because I don't know if I'm actually gonna like keep them or not. But like I feel like the card quality is fine. Yeah. I feel like a lot of the cards that they've been like a lot of the decks that they've been making are actually very interesting and at least do something different from like all the other stuff that came before it.
Yeah, and I also feel like Silver Rare as a rarity is actually a very good rarity, better than Frame Rare, easier to get than Frame Rare, and that I hope they don't fuck that up in the future, because I will be very upset if they do, because I really do like the Silver Rares, and I like how easy they are to get. Before I ramble on into a pit about that...
No, I mean, go for it.
No, it's fine. That's all I really wanted to say about it, but it's just... I really hope they don't mess that up, or screw that up in any way.
Like, I have to at least give them credit. They at least did a lot with each one of, like, the main boss grade 3s to at least differentiate itself. And I think Divine Skills, whether you love them or hate them, are an interesting mechanic. I just hope they don't go... Like, because some of them are way too broken. Like, let's be honest for a minute. I think Varga, even despite having that 4 damage restriction to it, like, I think it's stupid because you built support.
Just imagine how even stupider it's going to be when the back row retires too. That's why I'm just like, y'all think it's bad now, just wait till
when Rakshasa or whatever the hell its name is comes out.
Yeah, wait till that thing shows up, and then it's even worse. And then there's definitely got to be a ban in place.
Yeah, because that's fucking ridiculous. Like, at that point, you're just asking for things to get like way too crazy, which, funnily enough, Varga isn't doing that well in the Japanese meta right now. Like, it's a good deck, but it's not overwhelming, which is weird.
That is weird.
Because here in the English side, you have Sojo Doji, you have Shimanui, and you have Varga, all of which are Dragon Empire clans, or decks in general. And so it's like, what the fuck, Bushiroad? You really have a massive hard-on for this. Like, fix your goddamn game, please.
Oh, but they took his doggo away from him pretty easily.
Yeah, they took my dog away. Like, what the hell? Which I kind of understand it because Luard, with Luard, it's very easy to search out. But also, like, damn, like.
Yeah, they were so quick to jump down your throat about banning your dog in Luard Sargon, but yet, like, they let Shiranui and Varga run around like monsters still.
Which, again, I think overall, like, the decks in themselves are fine. I think that there was a lot of decks that I would have been more willing to invest my money into if it wasn't for the fact that, honestly, there were a lot of real-life circumstances this year for me personally, but also, like, if they kept up with a ban list, then it would have made me more willing to actually pay for these decks.
Also, something I'm going to do in the future for... Do you call yourself All-No or Dragnoa?
Dragnoa.
For Dragnoa in the future is probably discuss what was better, clans or nations.
Yeah.
Which I'll do that in the future. I won't go into it here.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of argument to be had one way or the other.
Yeah, no, I get that. As someone who's been playing since clans were actually a thing, like, I do get that, but regardless, I do think that if they continue down this trend where they actually make the cards themselves actually really solid and continue to give them support, then I'm all for it. Like, I like the idea of a divine skill because essentially it makes it so that way it's kind of like are a once per game limit break, where it's like usually it's reserved for the late game or just whenever you feel like it's necessary, and you don't have to sit there and just, you know, you don't have to play it exactly the same way. You can choose when to use it. And more importantly, I think it's very impactful. Unlike a lot of like other mechanics from years past, I think that for the first time since gift markers, I feel like Divine Skills really gave a lot of decks some sort of identity, in which I felt like the overdressed decks really didn't have as much.
I don't think everything's gonna get a
Divine skill
though.
No, and I don't expect it to, and that's perfectly fine. Like, I think if they stop with the divine skills and maybe, because I don't know what they would do at that point, if they would just make new grade 3s at that point of the same cards and then just give those specific units divine skills or whatnot. But if they keep it specifically for those, it's fine. I'm just concerned if they do more.
I think they need to slow down, like, because they're making so many new things. I think they need to slow down and give maybe some of their other stuff better support.
Yeah.
And just take it a little slower, because I feel like now they have so many options available, it's almost overwhelming. Like, I couldn't even name everything for Stoicheia and Dark States that they have available.
Yeah, even though for me, like, my biggest problem is, like, Caterpile was, like, super dominant throughout this year, which combines Tayfault, the Wisdom Order from Minerva, and Saragon. It just combines it into a deck that really is just, you have to run it in a lot of Keter builds to make them somewhat functionable, and I hated that notion.
Yeah, that's a problem that they're still dealing with, but at least I feel like they're trying to do as more reprints.
Or at least making it so that way that isn't as necessary. So, and I do think they're starting to notice that, hey, reprints kind of need to be more frequent. So let's actually put them in the actual sets, which is another massive silver lining for set 6 in particular, because they are reprinting the Stride Fodder grade 3s from set 13, which I'm very grateful for, because in Lorgolf was like $50 at one point, approaching to like a $60 card, and I'm sitting there like,
oh yeah, and
Bushra, where's my reprint?
Oh yeah, Soul Funeral Dragon was like 40 something at one point. It's gone down now because of those reprints that are going to happen, but yeah, that was getting out of hand. Like, someone could have easily made like $200
from that
off of a full play set,
which,
and that's ridiculous.
I hope they continue this trend and reprint the Gun Cyclers in set 7.
I'm sure they will.
I hope they do, because them shits are really fucking expensive. I'm not gonna sit there and justify paying that much money for a card, because like Biscotti, for example, right? She was like a $40 card per copy.
What about the Dark States Dragon Empire card that's basically splashable and everything that's like a $50 card right now? And I only have one copy of it, and I just happen to randomly pull it.
I fucking hate that. Like, I hate when they make these really good generics, and then it's suddenly like, yeah, no, it's suddenly way too good for you to not ignore. Slap $50 price tag on it. Like, that's my major problem.
For one copy, not even a full play set.
Yeah, that shit, like, I feel like nowadays, that's my major gripe with a lot of these sets. It's like, if you don't jump on it, and you don't pick up the cards, and you don't realize that a lot of these cards are really good, you're going to be paying a premium for it, quite literally, because Jesus Christ.
No pun intended.
No pun intended, which I guess this is my final, like, major thing about Vanguard for this year that I hope they kind of remedy going into next year is, where the hell is our premium product? Like, I get it was a new era and you wanted to focus on standard in particular, but we're kind of like, I know premium doesn't do well in Japan, but if you're not going to do, like, at the very least, give us, the English players, the product, and then if the Japanese player base wants it, then they can go and get it after the fact.
Also, on that note, let me also just ring the bell here for the fact that V is officially died this year.
Yeah, we mentioned it briefly in the other podcast, but like...
Did we?
Yeah, we did, but also like V is officially dead as a format. It's a side event, which I think is fine, because...
I guess if they weren't going to do anything with it, it's fine, but I'm sad because I liked V. I still enjoy playing V as a format. I have a lot of decks for V. Like, I don't have the desire to make them into premium decks. Like, I enjoyed V as a mechanic. Did it have stuff that needed to be fixed? Yeah. It had bans that needed to be made, yes. But I thought V was a good format, and I just am sad that they just basically did nothing with it until they decided to just...
Axe it.
Well, basically, the horse was dead, and they just... Well, close to dead, and they just decided to put it out of its misery.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it, again, this revolves back around to, you know, ban lists need to be more frequent, especially for formats that don't get as nearly as much, like, direct support.
Yeah. And
that's really the one thing I hope they do going into next year, because, dear God, they fucking need to do that. Because if you don't, then it's like, oh, because the problem is they give Japan the ban list, like, pretty much when you expect them to, but then for some odd reason, when it comes to the English side of the game, it's like, nope, you're going to be waiting a while, a little while, and a little while beyond that, and it's just like, how much more can we take of that, you know? Not
much.
Yeah, then that's really my main thing, but I guess, is there anything else you really wanted to go over at this rate, or?
I think we pretty much covered everything. I will just wait and see what happens with premium in the future, because I don't feel like the format's always been busted and jank. Let's just get that out of the way now, but I don't feel like it's been as ridiculous as like the infinite loops that have been going on.
Oh,
the actual infinite
like
loops.
The Big Six meta where you had like all these stupid like either superior rides or Zarzan loops and all this other crazy shenanigans. Yeah. Like at some point I intend to make a video where I go over cards that broke the game as a whole.
Yeah.
And that is something I will bring up in the future, but like, yeah, it's a bit of a mess, but as in terms of the future for Vanguard, I'm just to kind of just to drive the point home, I want them to give more premium product, because especially for us English players who actually play premium a lot more than Japan, we're kind of just desperate for it at this rate. And
are we desperate for it?
I feel like a lot of people are, especially those people who live in communities where premium is very prevalent. Like, give them something to actually like that's worthwhile. And so between that and just making a better ban list, like, and make them more consistent, I think those are the two big things that they're going to have to focus on going into next year. Because after next year, it is literally the 15th anniversary for the game. And that's probably going to bring a lot of changes in its own right if they continue to keep going with it.
They're going to rotate the format again.
Oh my God, please no. Legit.
I say that as a joke. I say that as a joke because didn't they do that for the 10th anniversary technically?
They technically did.
That's a joke. I don't seriously want that to happen. It's just, I just would find it funny, but sad at the same time if that's what they did. But did you...
So ultimately, did you, like, what is it exactly that you want the most for next year?
I'm just going to wait and see.
You don't have anything really?
Nothing right now in particular, aside from that one topic I do want to discuss. Yeah. But that'll be for a different time. I just want to wait and see what happens.
All right, fair enough. But I don't know when the next podcast episode will be, but when I get around to it, I'll get around to it. And until next time, this is Noah.
And Mayor Cardneco.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye, everyone.